hiking the West Coast Trail, surviving my family. Let's welcome Megan.
Poet Leslie Dreyfus wrote, "Family values are little like family vacations, subject to changeable weather, and often more fondly with the change of time." Even though it rained all day at the beach, it's often the momentary rainbows that we remember the most. Hiking the West Coast Trail requires a lot of forethought and preparation, or maybe it doesn't. 2 days before my family was scheduled to depart from Tabor to Vancouver Island, my parents had an epiphany. You see, earlier that summer, we had a conversation and I decided to opt out of the hike altogether. I wanted to save some money. I was going back to school the following year and wanted to buy a new laptop. However, 2 days before they were scheduled to depart, that conversation changed a little bit. My mom looked at me and said, "This is going to be an amazing trip, once in a lifetime opportunity. You should be coming. You absolutely have to come." What felt like a very short conversation, it ended quietly with me saying, "I guess I'll be joining the family expedition." This is a long hike, by the way. After much, to say the next 48 hours that ensued was a whirlwind would be an understatement. I remember anxiously walking into my boss's office the following morning and trying to find the words and collect myself and explain really why I was asking for a sudden departure from my job. Fortunately, my dad at the time knew my boss, and he called him and kind of tried to soften the blow, taking responsibility for what he called the situation. Even though my boss at the time was very understanding, I remember feeling tears in my eyes as I felt like I had let him down. I collected myself, walked out the doors, and we headed to Calgary. One of the things with hiking is you do require some materials to make sure that trip is going to be safe. So we went to Mountain Equipment Co-op. I got some hiking boots. Those are important. A pack, and some of the necessities. I'd been watching my family prepare all summer, talking about the best route to take, dehydrating their meals, and also looking to distribute their weight properly. At this point, it was very much their plan. My only commitment was that they had a safe and fun journey. It had quickly now become my plan as well. August 4th, 2010, my 20th birthday, I found myself on the trailhead, 75 kilometers, 70 ladders, 130 bridges, and 4 cable cars stood between me and a warm shower. Hiking for 7 days with new hiking boots and a 60-pound pack, being in close quarters with your families, what could go wrong? Definitely was how I wanted to spend my 20th birthday when that summer started. It took about till the second day for things to get real. 17 kilometers, 9 hours, and a few tears later, I felt like I had crawled to our destination for the evening. Any energy I did have left was entirely reserved for taking off my hiking boots. I remember sitting on the sand thinking, I can't believe I still have to make dinner, and trying to avoid setting up my tent. The following morning, when the sun shone through my tent, I could feel the cold mist come off of the ocean, and I thought, really, I have to get up and do this all again for 5 days. We hiked through deep terrain, walked along bridges, wooden walkways, cliffs, boulders, and beaches. And for those of you who are not familiar, it exists in the temperate rainforest. So every drop of rain that falls from the sky turns those same wooden walkways and tree roots into a dangerous game of slip and slide. If it wasn't for the very real threat of injury or death, we would have given America's Funniest Home Videos a run for their money. Up until this point in my life, my hiking experience had been push yourself as hard as you can till the summit. Enjoy the view, hike back down, and go get a burger and beer. That's great when it's a sprint. When it now becomes a marathon, it's not a very realistic plan of attack. However, much like life, when you hike, if you want to survive, if you want to be successful, you do have to continue to show up, prepare yourself, learn, grow, and adapt along the way. It took until a McDonald's run, a hot shower, and a hotel bed later for me to fully appreciate some of the gifts and lessons that I had learned along the way. Hiking at the front of the line may ensure that you are bear bait, but it also makes sure that you always have a plentiful amount of fresh air. Very, very critical when you're eating dehydrated food for a number of days. If you don't pack enough toilet paper, you most certainly will never be able to look at Calvin and Hobbes ever the same. Testing out the effectiveness of a rain jacket in a rainstorm is not as fun as it sounds. And when your aunt offers you a tube of antibacterial prescription cream, take it. It will most certainly help you avoid a rash and sleeping with gloves on later that trip. And if you're always on the lookout for the next thing to trip over, you may avoid the fall, but you also will ensure you miss the view. And make sure you double and triple check the tide tables. Because when you set your tent up on the beach, the last thing you want to do is wake up in the middle of the night and hear water lapping against the side of your tent. And most importantly, say yes. It's been my own personal experience that the more often you say yes to things, things do turn out. I'd rather look back on life and say, I can't believe I hiked the West Coast Trail, than say, I wish I had. Like Leslie wrote, yes, it may rain all day at the beach, but it is the momentary rainbows that we remember the most.